Hello everybody, my name is Coach Boop and welcome back to another episode of This Week in EU. Today we have a bunch of new things happening in the EU environment. We have the G2 Cup hosted this last weekend for $20,000. We have an Asian FNCS winner moving over towards EU, playing EU scrims. We have Rezon Vadeal and Noahreyli, and a bunch of different stories all talk about EU practice and the EU trio and duo situations of this week. The first thing I want to start talking about today is the 20,000 G2 Cup that was hosted this past weekend. In dramatic fashion, Hen, Chaps, and Jannisz did win it. As you can see here on the leaderboard, they absolutely dominated the competition. This is the first time we've seen them in a stacked competition since FNCS last season, and this is also a situation where they were actually uncon craggy compared to that FNCS then. This begs the question to a lot of people is what could have happened last season if they were uncon and craggy? Were they potential FNCS winners back then, or were they not good enough to do well? My personal opinion, I think even when they were contested in craggy in 12 games, they still had an insane performance in that FCS Grand Final while being contested by another really good team. So my best guess is if they weren't contested last season in craggy, they more than likely would have won FNCS just because they are that good. One of the other surprising performances that we saw in that G2 Cup was Savage and Dreader and Refsguard. For the first time since FNCS playing another stacked tournament, we saw a very disappointing performance for them. We saw them lose our spawn a lot of times. If you look at the leaderboard of the G2 Cup and of those 6 games, they placed 25th, 17th, 24th, 30th, 16th, and 17th, which, quite honestly is not a FNCS second place winning performance. So the question is, why did they do this badly? Well, there's a lot of different reasons, but the majority of it was that they were contested by another trio, and that trio's name is Malibuka, Shizoname, and Mustache. If you guys don't know who these guys are insane Russian fraggers. They are one of the teams that continuously contested Andreda back in Season 5 during that, stint of 3 teams at Steamy. All those guys are all insane players, all insane fighters, all insane fraggers. So those aren't the easiest of people to sort of fight off spawn. And it's looking like that team so far are the better Steamy team for the season. The question is though, are they good enough to make it into grand finals since Savage, Refsguard, and Dreader are already all qualified into the next season? And if they are good enough, how will that pan out for them in the grand finals? My opinion, Savage, Refsguard, and Dreader might need to work a little bit on the spawn fighting. They haven't been contested in a long while, so they gotta, brush up on some of that knowledge and sort of approach it from a different setting. One of the interesting things, though, speaking of, brushing up those spawn fights, is that Refsguard actually played with the Russians during a session of Late Night Noble, which is a T1 practice in EU. So maybe he's there, doing a little bit of investigating and trying to find some extra information about how they play Steamy stacks. The second bit of news of this week is that the FNCS Asia winner has arrived in EU. So for those of you that don't know, his name is FN Force and he was the Season 6 FNCS winner back in Asia. What is interesting to note is that he doesn't actually live anywhere near the Asian servers. He actually lives on the border of Russia in a town called Khabarovsk, I think. I don't know how you pronounce that, but hopefully that's close enough. Which is very close to some of the servers in Japan and Korea. Now, what's interesting to note about this guy is that I don't personally know a lot about him. What I can take from his Twitter is that he considered himself one of the best fighters in Asia, and obviously he did win FNCS last season, and he did that with 80 ping, which obviously is very impressive to win any sort of competition with, any ping higher than 30 or 40 at that point. So the question is Asia's meta going to be comparable to EU's meta? Is he going to be able to compete so far within EU? How well is he going to do? How good is he individually as a player? Those are all the questions I'm dying to find out. What we have seen though is that he did actually play a session of that Late Night Noble we mentioned before. He actually played with 97 defaults, Letwike, and obviously himself. For those of you that don't know who 97 Default is, that is the player who had a lot of drama in the last FNCS Grand Finals and got suspended due to interesting tweets and remarks. And obviously since then he has split with his trio of Freemark and Wolfie, so he's probably looking at different options. So what is interesting is that even though Force is coming from the Asian region, he does speak Russian, so he should be able to find a trio within the Russian community. In that Noble session, they didn't do too badly. It was only 3 games, but they placed 22nd, 7th, and then 9th. Nothing to go crazy about yet. We will be monitoring him and seeing how well he does in those practice servers and updating you on his performance after that. Now, the biggest piece of news that has come out is that apparently Rezon Vadeal and Noahreyli have officially split. Last night, Rezon made a tweet looking for +1 for trios with Noahreyli. We're both the best players. DM me. This is something that we have seen last season as well. They wanted to split as well and then ended up coming back together. So who knows how serious this is? Obviously, it's the EU shuffle. We still have months until FNCS. So who knows what is happening within that trio. What is interesting to note though is that Vadeal did actually tweet out #KingsOfBoney, which is a very interesting tweet because that is where Rezon Vadeal and Noahreyli landed last season. This season, however, they were planning on going back towards Sweaty Sands, as we could see in a lot of the practice scrims that they played in. So the reference of #KingsOfBoney, people assuming it is a reference to Aqua, who is landing Boney this season, who also doesn't have a set trio yet. Could he be playing with Aqua and Jannisz? They did play together in the Noble late night practice. However, after messaging Vadeal and asking him about it, he said that he has no plans on playing with Aqua or Jannisz. Not that Jannisz would ever split with this trio, obviously, since they are absolutely insane. So the question comes, are they actually serious about splitting? Vadeal said yes, they are actually splitting. And he's going to struggle finding a trio because of that, because no one is going to take it seriously. So we'll only have to see what will happen with that trio, and if Vadeal will be able to find a third, and if Noah and Rezon will be able to find a third as well. There aren't that many options available in EU right now. We'll have to wait until after the first Cash Cup, where we expect a lot of people to split. That is usually what happens in most seasons. What we have seen though is that Rezon and Noah, they are actually trying out with Veno in the next coming days in some of the practice servers. We see this tweet here from Pink that he and Nebs are looking for someone to try for a couple of days because Veno is trying with Noah and Rezon for a bit. So Veno, for those who don't know, got second in All-Star Finals a few weeks ago. He is a very good mechanical player. Rezon and Noah, obviously Noah takes a lot of the IGLing away from him, so they need someone that can sort of emulate Vadeal's playstyle, which is very difficult. Veno, however, is a very good solo player and can play aggressively on second height, so we'll have to see how that works out. Obviously, Noah and Rezon are used to using German comms as well, so whether or not they'll be able to adapt to English comms as well as having that prowess in 3v3 fights is still to be determined. One of the last pieces that we saw coming out was that Jannisz and Veno are now officially duoing as well. Jannisz then has split with his old duo of Excrees, who didn't do too well last DreamHack. They placed, I think, 44th in the last DreamHack. So Veno and Jannisz might be the god little duo. Veno obviously on the come up now, playing with all these big pro players. Jannisz always is consistent as always. This might be a duo to watch out for. Now for something a little bit different, there was a patch today bringing out a few different things. The main thing that we saw was that nanorites, which is a building material, has been added to the game. It has the ability for you to side grade a normal AR into a pulse rifle. So in terms of competitive, pretty useless. The one thing that has changed though is that these nanorites give you the ability to create a slow motion zone when you throw them on the ground. The players within that slow motion zone are able to dash forward and backwards in multiple directions quickly, so you're not completely slowed down. However, I can imagine in late game this sort of slowing down and having to spam spacebar while you're moving is going to be very annoying. So this might be used by high ground trios just to keep. I don't know how much you can keep in a trio. I don't know how much you can keep in a trio in terms of inventory slots, but if you have 3 to 4 of these and you throw these down in late game, it's virtually impossible for someone to get out of it, as well as being safe and building within it. So you could get a lot of kills in late game as a high ground trio with it. There was the ability to side grade it into a railgun. However, I believe it has been hot fixed. I am no longer able to do it in arena, so thank God that has been changed. That is it for this week. If you enjoyed the video, hopefully you can give it a like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and follow me on Twitch as well. I am live every single day, usually watching some pro customs in EU, talking about the meta, talking about the news, and doing some VOD reviews as well. Have yourself a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.